Today, I want to talk about fake jobs and fake job postings, what this means to you. I want to talk about why companies do it. I want to talk about how to recognize them. I want to talk about how to avoid them. And in the event you find yourself interviewing for a fake job, maybe a question or two to ask. So it's really interesting. I saw this. It was actually a survey that Resume Builder did. They published the results of this survey last month, and they had pulled 1,641, I believe, hiring officials. So a fairly good sized number of hirers across many, many companies. And they'd asked them about their job postings, among other things. And I saw a news article, I don't know if it was Apple News or CNBC or something like that, but then I went and actually found the survey and the results. And so I dug in. I want to share those results with you today because it was actually even a little more disturbing than I would have imagined. But as an executive recruiter for a long time who's worked with companies who are hiring, I got familiar and understood why they did some of the things they did. I want to share that with you too, because I do think in some cases, the practice was not really with ill intent. So I want to break all this down for you today. But first thing, let's run through the numbers really quickly, just so you can understand kind of what's happening. So I mentioned there was this survey done by Resume Builder. It's not a site I'd recommend, but they did the survey, so I wanted to grab their data. And I appreciate them for doing that. 1,641 hiring officials, that's what they call them. And then they said this year, 4 in 10 had posted a fake job, literally a fake job. And then right now, currently, 30% of them were still running fake jobs, and 70% of the hiring officials considered this acceptable practice. And they provided the rationales, their rationales, not that I agree with them, on why they thought it was acceptable. Now, to give you some more stats about the order of magnitude of this nonsense, of these fakers, nearly half of them posted 1 to 5 jobs that they considered to be fake. And then if you kind of run down this list, nearly 20% of them had about 10. A smaller portion, a little over 10%, had 50. Some 10% had 25. But actually almost 15% had more than 75 fake jobs for their company. And you might be wondering why they would do something like that. And I'm going to tell you that right now, because here was the rationale they provided, the data I pulled from the survey. And generally speaking, 59% or more, so nearly 2/3, had provided these handful of reasons. The first one was for future employees. So to make it appear to future employees that there were openings. So as though the company, 66%, was growing. Now, the growth aspect even talked about organizations admitting that they were posting fake jobs primarily for investment purposes, meaning to get other parties, venture capitalists, private equity, just companies to buy them up or whatever it is, for actual investment dollars. So they were putting fake jobs out there for those purposes. Really, 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 really unfortunate. And now we're starting to get into the mean stuff. So 63% said we put the fake jobs up because we wanted our employees to feel as though we were trying to alleviate their work, even though we didn't really intend to do that. And if that isn't bad enough, 62% cited one of the rationales as we wanted employees to feel vulnerable, as if we would replace them. So make sure you do a good job so that we don't replace you. Literally as a scare tactic. So really, really unfortunate. And then nearly 60% said we were simply resume hoarding. So for future jobs, we wanted to make sure we had resumes on file, even though we weren't in hiring mode now. I mean, it's really unfortunate. So a few of these other things that I want to give you before I get into some of my opinions on all of this and tactics is also where might you find these fake jobs? So 72% said we put them on our website. 70% of them put them on LinkedIn. So lots of times, and you're submitting your resume, you're not hearing anything. While you know how I feel about any of these that I would call that are feeding into the applicant trashing system, still this doesn't help either. So 58% popped them on ZipRecruiter, 49 on Indeed, 48 on Glassdoor. You see that these numbers are fairly large. Would love to know in the chat if any of you feel that you or that whether you felt you might have applied for a fake job, or you absolutely know it was a fake job. I know that might be hard, but I want to shift now into, well, how would you detect these? And while I would say to you that I don't know that there's a 100% bulletproof way to know whether a job is fake, but one thing I would say is I want to lump the fake jobs into a couple of different categories. Let's call them the real fake jobs, like really a scam. All right? If it's, a non-business email, I get emails. Wait, so not even like that they're on a site. I personally get emails from organizations that I know are trying to scam me because they ask me to be on somebody famous's podcast, and they say that they'll pay me. And I can see that the email address is from a Gmail address or something like that. So you want to make sure that you're being careful if you're ever getting any emails like that, or if you're seeing them online. The grammar's poor, or there seems to be a lot of errors in the write-up, in the job description itself. Maybe the pay is super high or the pay is super broad. If it sounds too good to be true, these are all really good signs that it's truly fake. And obviously you could go and try to click your way around the internets and try to find somebody who works at the organization or message them. But these to me would set off like alarming bells, like big bells that something is wrong. And then here's where I want to get into where it gets a little more nuanced. And I called these kind of the sort of fake, because organizations and while I don't love this practice at all, and I don't consider it acceptable, I do understand the rationale that I'm going to explain to you that I noticed and observed in clients that I worked with, meaning Mile Walk Inc., my executive recruitment firm. When we would support clients and we would recruit for them, there were a number of times where they would have us recruit for positions where they needed a lot of them, meaning they always wanted to interview people for a particular position simply because they needed a lot. Now, the needs a lot could be, hey, we have a large company and we have hundreds of project managers, or we have hundreds of business analysts, or we have hundreds of administrators or executive assistants, or whatever it might be. If they have a lot of needs, what happens in those situations is they never know who's going to be leaving. And even if they're a great organization and they have a low turnover, if you have 500 project managers, if one of them leaves, you have a vacancy. And even if you have a modest, say, single-digit percentage turnover each year, you're still looking at 45 to 50 of those project managers leaving in the natural course of just people moving jobs, moving countries, moving cities, a spouse that got relocated, for any of a variety. I want to go back to school, any of a variety of reasons. So a lot of times, organizations that we would work with would keep their posting up for a long period of time because we know we have a lot of these people. We always seem to need them. We're always on the lookout for good ones, and we always occasionally have somebody leave unexpectedly, or there's a high turnover. So oftentimes, especially if an organization has a large sales force, there's usually a high turnover because selling is very difficult in general. There are more bad salespeople per capita than there are any other bad position or employee base in the world. And so a lot of times organizations will either let their salespeople go, or the salespeople will quit because they're not making sales and therefore they're not making commission. So a lot of times our clients would say, Andy, we're always on the lookout for good salespeople because they're really hard to find and they're hard to keep, or because a lot of times if they're not performing, either we let them go or they quit. I'm always willing to upgrade. So what I say to you about why you want to reach into organizations, and I say, boss hunting and recruiter hunting and just always reaching into the executive management team of organizations is a good idea, is because if I had 10 salespeople, I know 2 of them can go immediately. Meaning I know I'd be willing to trade out my least effective performers for somebody who's better. And if you're stronger, I'd be open to talk to you. So if I have a large enough base of employees, I'd be willing to upgrade. Now, what you might also notice on the sites is if you see a posting that either has a very old post date, well, here again, it's not a 100% bulletproof for sure, it's fake. But if it's been up a long time, there's a reason it could be up for a long time. Number one, they're either incredibly picky or it's a very, very difficult position to fill. Those are certainly viable reasons why it might be up. Or it's a fake job, or it's on a low simmer, meaning I don't really need an extra engineer. I don't really need an extra analyst, but I'll leave it up because you never know what might come in. But if the job is refreshed frequently, like every month, what the company might be doing is going back to my original needs, lots, high turnover, or whatever. They always want the posting up and running. But what happens is they don't want their posting to look stale. So what they'll do is they'll refresh it, take it down, or repost it. And what that does, for example, like if you're on Indeed and you're looking for a job and you say, I'm a project manager, go. Well, a lot of times you'll sort by date or it'll naturally come up by date. Well, any company that wants to keep their posting visible will constantly refresh it. And so let's say you're job searching for 6 months and you're monitoring this company and you keep seeing them reposting the same job over and over and over again. That could be the reason. That could be the reason why. Or if there's a broad, very, very broad range of salary, that could mean a couple things. On the one hand, it can mean, hey, we're open to actually hiring somebody on the lower end of the scale if they're the right cultural fit and they show promise. Or I'm happy to pay more if I get somebody who is more seasoned or more experienced, and I'm willing to pay more if I get more. I would do that at Mile Walk. I want to pay less if I'm getting less experience, or I'm willing to pay more if you can do more and add more value. But these are the kind of things that I would just keep an eye on. These are just clues. They're not absolutes. And then what I would say if you feel like I'm seeing a lot of these, I'm always going to this is an evergreen remark I'm about to make. I don't care what the market is doing. I don't care if it's an employer-centric market. I don't care if it's an employee-centric market, meaning there's a lot of demand and companies are growing, so they need a lot of employees, so the employees are really driving the market. Or if it's the other way around, where we're tightening and employers are not hiring as much. I don't care what the situation is. I don't care about fake jobs, because the way I would go about targeting is boss hunting. Y'all, anybody that's followed me for longer than 10 minutes knows this is my number one recommended technique, is to reach out to hiring officials or senior members of the management team, depending on your position, or people in managerial positions that could potentially give you an opportunity or a position. And regardless of whether they have fake jobs or evergreen jobs up there or whatever the case may be, if you get your resume and message to a hirer or a potential hirer, or even a recruiter for that matter, they're gonna look at your background and then they're gonna determine, are you worth speaking to? So even if I need a lot of salespeople, even if I need a lot of administrators, even if I need a lot of analysts, and I still want to talk to you because there is a legit possibility that I would want to bring you onto my team. This will almost 100% eradicate the fact that it is a fake job, or I'm not really in a hurry, or I really don't need another salesperson, but I'd like to talk to you because you never know. They're hard to find. The really good ones are. I might be willing to trade somebody out. So I want you to lean on this tactic. That's to try to minimize the impact that fake jobs can have with you as you hopefully don't apply online, but as you're surfing the internet's looking for those opportunities, that will help. And then if you get in a situation, because in the survey, in the report, the hiring officials said they went so far in the charade as to actually interview people. They would go through the motions and go through that charade because of the rationales that I told you that they pointed to. But the one or two questions that I would ask, and this is just a reminder, I've given you this question before, but you should always be asking, how many people have you hired on your team in the last year? If you're talking at the very high levels to the C levels, how many people has your company hired in the last year? Take a look at their advertisements on their website. Are they, and I don't have a problem with if they say, we're always on the lookout for great talent. Here are the positions that we generally hire for. That's one thing. But if they have loads and loads of postings and they're telling you that they haven't really hired a lot of people, you can pretty much bet that there's a lot of fake jobs on their site. What's your turnover like? Right? You could be replacing people. And so you might want to ask this in the context of how many net new people have been added to the company? How many people have you lost? How many people have you hired? How many net positive positions are you in within the last year? So I wanted to bring this to your attention. I do think this is an interesting topic. It's really unfortunate. And I know if you're in my community and you are full out looking for your next job, that this could be something that you run into. And actually, the more time you're spending job searching, the greater the likelihood that you're going to encounter one of these. The older that you are, the greater the likelihood that you will have encountered one of these if you've changed jobs more frequently than an emerging professional. So I just want you to keep this in mind. Your best weapon against fake jobs is to target bosses, do more networking, target recruiters even. And when you get into the interviews, just make sure you're kind of kicking the tires a bit with those types of questions about how many people have you really added to the team, how many net new people have you added to the team, and so on. So hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad I could bring this to your attention. If you haven't seen that resume builder survey that they published the results for, it's in June. You can Google it and probably come up with the detail if you want to take a deeper look at the summary that I provided here. If you like this, please click the thumbs up and share it. If you're here with me live, we're going to the chat. If you're watching me on a recording, I will see you next week.